Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how do?
Good evening. This is Joseph Botash, and I'd like to call to order the March 5th, 2024 Wrentham Select Board meeting to order. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this public meeting of the Select Board shall be conducted remotely via Zoom. The agenda posted on the town's website identifies how the public may join. Please note, this meeting is being recorded. As a preliminary matter, this is the Select Board Chair, Joseph Botash. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson here.
Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo here.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington here.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse here.
All right. Staff, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Town Manager Kevin Sweet.
Present.
Assistant Town Administrator Greg Enos.
Here.
And we have our Executive Assistant Amanda Vazzapolo.
Present.
All right. So let's get jumping into the agenda. We have a 6:50 public hearing. So what we'll do is we'll fly through some other stuff real quick. We're going to go over to tab 2. And tab 2 is approval of, oops, I'm sorry. No, yep, we have no announcements. So we'll go over to tab 2. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from February 20th, 2024.
So moved.
Is there, okay, motion made by Selectman Harrington, seconded by Select Board Member Gallo. Is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
That passes 5-0. At this time, the chair entertain a motion to approve the February 27th, 2024 open session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Harrington. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second made by Select Board Member Gallo. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll go to roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, that passed 5-0. Let's jump down real quick to, we have a lot of echoing on here. Is that something, see, looks like everybody is muted. Except,
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, I could be crazy, which I know I can be, but
you are.
do we not have, we have some announcements, I thought, on the agenda, unless I have a different agenda?
Oops, wait a minute. You're right. I didn't see that. There wasn't a tab next to it. I'm sorry. Can
No,
we have,
no, I just didn't want you to skip, if you didn't have to.
yeah, I was looking for the tab 1 I saw.
Yep.
So Select Board Member Harrington, if you could kindly read the announcements.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Announcements. The warrant for the June 3rd, 2024 town meeting opened March 1st, 2024 and closes April 8th, 2024. Excise tax bills are due March 25th. Pay online, in person, or by mail. You still have time to vote in the presidential primary. Polling is open till 8 p.m. today at the Delaney Elementary, 120 Taunton Street. And save the dates, March 12th, 7 p.m. at the King Philip Regional High School for the Candidates Forum, and March 23rd at 11 a.m. for the candidates on the Common. Meet the candidates and discuss issues vital to Wrentham's future. Don't miss these important events.
All right. Thank you. So next we can jump over to tab 3, which is the appointment of Sean Adams to Open Space Committee. And I see Sean is with us. Do we have anybody from the Open Space Committee joining us this evening? I don't see anybody. Okay. All right. So, Sean, we want to thank you for coming. We generally would like to have somebody from the Open Space Committee, but I don't want to hold you up to the public hearing. So, Sean, I happen to know Sean. I've known him for quite a few years through Boy Scouting, and he has been Sean has definitely been a contributor to Boy Scouting, working with his son and all the other scouts and helping him through rank. I think he would be a great addition to the Open Space Committee. So I have no further questions. I want to thank you for wanting to volunteer, and I'm going to turn it over to Select Board Member Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Sean, thank you for applying to volunteer. But just for our listening and viewing audience, if you wouldn't mind just giving them a little bit of background about yourself and
Absolutely.
why you want to be on a member of the Open Space Committee.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you guys. So we've lived in Wrentham almost 24 years. I kind of moved in right before my son Robert was born. And we've always absolutely loved the town. And as Chairman Botash pointed out, I spent kind of the last time I was able to volunteer my time was with Troop 131 in the Boy Scouts as first a member of the committee and then as an assistant scoutmaster. Even though I probably wasn't a good one, I did my very best. First time I'd ever camped out at all actually was with my son's Boy Scout troop. But I really felt that it was the right thing to do to give back. And my son went on to actually be an Eagle Scout for Troop 131, which is probably one of the greatest days of my life. And so, but some years have passed. He's now in college. He's still in college, but some years have passed, and kind of the thought occurred to me that really I wanted to take the opportunity to really volunteer. What other ways could I volunteer my time to town that we've lived in and really, really loved. And I absolutely love, one of the things I love about Wrentham is really the amount of green space we have, right? I pretty much hit Trout Pond, I think, almost every weekend and have for decades. Actually, my son's Eagle Scout project was at Trout Pond because I used to walk him there. Now I walk the dog there. But so open space in Wrentham is something that I think is very, very important. I think it's actually something that makes Wrentham different. And is very, very special. And so when I saw that there was an opportunity to join the Open Space Committee, I thought it just kind of fit. It fit with the fact that I would like to give back to the town, and it really fits with something that I find important. So,
Okay, very good. Well, listen, I appreciate that and good luck.
thank you, sir.
All right, Select Board Member Gallo.
I just want to say thank you, Sean, for your willingness to volunteer. I agree with you. One of the things I love about the town is our open space as well. It needs to be protected, and we need good people like you to step up and help us do that. So appreciate you getting involved. I share your love for our community, and thanks again for stepping up and helping us out. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, Select Board Member Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a nice letter from Alan Selling making recommendation. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't. I appreciate you stepping up and volunteering, and wish you the best.
Thank you, sir.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No further questions. Just Sean, thank you for stepping up and volunteering for this very important position. I also cherish the open space we have here in Wrentham and share that passion that you do as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to appoint Sean Adams to Open Space Committee for a term effective immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Select Board Member Harrington, second by Select Board Member Rouse. Is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, so that passed 5-0. The only thing we ask, today's a bad day. Tomorrow might be a little bit tough with the after day of the election, but you need to go by our clerk's office and get sworn in before you can participate in the meeting. And we thank you again, and I look forward to reappointing you in June of 2024.
Thank you all very, very much. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Let's jump over to tab 4. We have a common vicular application, and this is for, I saw Mr. Vaca on the line, Kevin Vaca. There you are. And your Copper City Espresso. And before we go any further, you from Rosendale by any chance?
No, sir.
All right, just want to make sure because I knew Vaca's from Rosendale. Just want to make sure that we are on the same page. So you're going into the old Crosby space,
That's correct.
and you're doing quite a bit of construction, huh?
No, just some plumbing and, some minor touch-up work.
The construction there was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very solid.
Yeah, I built the original Crosby's for Megan.
Now
No
I
structural
can't vote-
changes needed. That thing's
Now I
solid.
can't vote to support him after that comment.
All right, so this is actually, if I understand, if I'm understanding correctly, this is your second coffee shop, correct?
That's correct. We operate out of the Canton Junction MBTA station right now and have been doing so for about 6 years.
Is that little house?
No, it's the one across the street. We're in the main building that serves as the train station.
Okay, all right. I know there's like a little structure in the middle of the parking lot that a friend of mine had a pizza place there for a while.
Yeah, it's still a pizza place.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Not my friend though. Not that we're not friends anymore, but he gave it up. So you got it. I have no questions. We have certificate of insurance from you, and everything looks good to me. I'm going to pass it to the rest of the board members. Select Board Member Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, first of all, Kevin, welcome to the community.
Thank you.
And I enjoy a nice coffee myself, so I wish you a lot of success up there. And this question is really either for the chairman or Kevin Sweet. Has Kevin met all of his obligations with the town?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and Selectman Anderson, everything's been reviewed, signed off by all the applicable departments. Might still have some final pre-operational inspection stuff, but he's in good standing, as well as with the tax collector's office. So no concerns regarding this application.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
All right.
Yep.
Select Board Member Gallo.
No, I was gonna ask the same thing Select Board Member Anderson did, so thank you, Jimmy. Kevin, I just want to welcome you to our community. I've heard nothing but great things about you guys, by the way. I know that some of the residents have been stopping in, talking to you, introducing themselves, very excited. I'm very excited. I've heard great things about your Canton location. So welcome to the community. I think you're gonna find this board and this community is very small business focused. We do everything we can to support our small businesses. And I will be coming in for some kind of caffeinated beverage just as soon as you open. So nice to meet you.
Great. Thank you very much. We're excited to be part of the town, and likewise, we try to support as much of the town activities as we can. So don't be a stranger if you need anything.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Kevin. Welcome again to Wrentham. We wish you the best. And our board is here for you if you need anything, and wish you the best success in the town of Wrentham.
Thank you very much. It was nice to meet you the other day.
Yes. Thank you.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Kevin, welcome to Wrentham. I'm looking forward to meeting you personally. No further questions, just that I've been looking at your Canton menu and I'm very excited for not only the caffeinated beverages, but also some of the food that you advertise on your menu. So I think it'll be a great addition to our town, and we're really looking forward to welcoming you into the community.
Thank you. Just a fun fact, everything on our food menu is named after an American folklore hero. So if you can come in and tell me every single one, I'll give you an item on the house.
Okay, good to know.
Accepted.
So you must have something with the name Caesar Cello on it, right?
Not yet. We're
You got
saving that one
to
just for Wrentham.
history. You need to know about Caesar. All right. Any questions from Kevin or the public, or are we good?
Mr. Chair, I'm good. Just again, echo the board's sentiments. Welcome, Kevin. If my office or anyone in town hall can help you with anything, we're always there to support and provide that. We look forward to enjoying the product. Welcome to town.
Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and if opportunity has it, we'll get to meet you all in person.
Yes. Okay, so at this time, the chair entertains a motion to approve the common vicular application for Copper City Espresso located at 48 South Street and to authorize the use of electronic signatures.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Selectman Harrington. Is there any further discussion? Being none, we will do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo,
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
and Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
That was 5, right? I did 5. Yep, so that passed 5-0. Well, congratulations. Welcome to town. We look forward to stopping by and love to get a look at that menu and see what you named after me. So that'll be a good time. So we look forward to having you as part of a partner in Wrentham. As I say, Rentham's not a town, it's a family. So you're a member. All
Thank
right.
you. I appreciate it.
Let's do a quick update. We have 4 minutes on MBTA Communities overlay. So we had a joint meeting with planning and EDC on last Tuesday. I think the meeting went well. We did send 3 letters, one to the governor, one to our state rep, and one to our state senator. The letters are available on our website. There's a great tab if you go in and type MBTA communities, all the information, videos of all meetings pertaining to it are there. Kevin, can you just let us know what we've heard back at to this date?
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. So I did have an opportunity. The state did reach out. I spoke today to Chris Clutchman, who is the director of the Community Services Division for the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, EOHLC. Conversation with her is, they have received the letters, both within her office and the governor's office. They are reviewing the letters. They are a response. We will see a response, but obviously there's multiple folks that are involved with those type of replies. So I would anticipate there'll be a little bit of delay in seeing that over the next couple of weeks. I've known Chris a long time. She was a former local planning director in the town of Westford, and we had a good conversation, catch up, and she's offered to be a resource either on a smaller meeting or even attend a public meeting at one of our future board meetings to discuss what the 3A requirements are, how they can work with. She recognizes that Wrentham is a smaller community. She understands the issues that were addressed in the letter. At this point, what we're waiting for is to determine whether it makes sense to kind of wait till we receive those responses from the state, and then maybe invite her and set up a meeting to have that discussion. But it was a good conversation. Again, they reached out through her and provided just kind of an update that what we will receive. No specifics at this point, but she definitely wanted to reiterate and express that the state is there to listen, and is happy to assist how they can to help Wrentham meet its obligation with regards to the MBTA community. So that's the only update I've had. I just was a phone call, but she certainly is willing to come out in person and or join any future public meetings if the board desires. But I think at this point, probably we'll wait until we receive the official response letters from the state, and then maybe set up a meeting at that point. So that's the only information I have with regards to it.
I appreciate the update. Just one thing I just wanted to state is, we've seen in the local papers, and we've heard some conversations about this, the MBTA communities, the overlay district. And I think there is some misconceptions. I read a letter to the editor of the Sun Chronicle yesterday where an individual was stating that we're not allowing affordable housing in to help with the people who work in our community, in our restaurants, at the outlets and things of that nature. On the contrary, the proposal we have does have an affordable component for people of working class people who cannot afford the average home in Wrentham. So we do have that affordable component for rental. We also have an age restricted for our seniors. We also have in our plan to have some duplex, triplex types of homes at lower costs for first-time home buyers. So the things that were addressed that saying that we are addressing the MBTA's communities does not. They're market rate units. And market rate units in Wrentham, as we can tell by looking around, are not cheap. They're not affordable. I don't think I could afford a market rate apartment in this day and age. So I just want to get that clear that the stuff we're seeing from people and what they're hearing, this is not an affordable housing project that we're saying no to. The word affordable can be taken in many different contexts. To us, an affordable component for our seniors, affordable component for our first-time home buyers, affordable component for our blue-collar workers, an affordable component for our police, fire, DPW workers, those who want to live in the community they work in. We want to find that niche, and that's what we have on the plan that we have so far. I'm going to ask the board if they have any questions or comments before we go any further. Select Board Member Anderson.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Select Board Member Gallo.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I would just agree with the sentiments. There's definitely some miscommunication, misinformation going on out there. But I will say there's also some pretty good press. I know I've read a couple of articles that kind of capture the sentiments of this board pretty well. I actually hope we'll have time to let Select Woman Rouse comment on the Globe article and some of the other things that have been forwarded to her, because I think we have to make sure that we're discussing the misinformation and making sure that we at least trying to set the record straight what we're trying to do here. One of the other things that I hope we're going to get into tonight is to see what we're doing, what the other communities surrounding us are doing. I know the last time we met, we kind of charged Kevin with talking to towns like Milton, Bellingham, some of the North Shore communities, Holden, that were kind of pushing back a little bit and investigating the enforceability, the constitutionality of this zoning bylaw. As we all know, zoning is typically done on a local level, not mandated by the state without any kind of funding. So I would like to make sure that at every meeting, we continue those conversations as well, because I can just tell you, my personal experience is I've had attorneys reach out to me offering services for Wrentham. And there's a lot of people that have a very different view of the legality and enforceability of this mandate. So I think it's very important for our community, this board, and everyone to understand both sides of this equation, and for us to be, should we be doing joint meetings with some of these other communities? So these are just some of the points that I have that I know we have a public hearing, but I hope we can touch on these. Because this is probably the most important topic that we're dealing with right now. And my phone's been ringing off the hook. Email's been the same, with very, very concerned residents about this.
All right. I didn't realize the time. It's getting into the 6:53, so we need to go into our public hearing. So I'd like to pause this discussion and come back to it. I thought it'd be a little bit quicker. So I think we need to give Select Board Member Harrington and Select Board Member Rouse a little bit of time to speak. But let's hop into our 6:50 public hearing. So at this time, the chair entertain a motion to open the public hearing for 185 South Street, application for amendment of license for storage of flammable and combustible liquids, flammable gases, and solids.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So motion made by Select Board Member Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Gallo. We'll do a roll call vote to open the public hearing. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, so that passed 5-0. At this time, the chair entertain a motion to waive, if you wish, the reading of the public hearing notice.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Harrington. We'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, so that passed 5-0. So do we have Humberto Alex Rigo with us?
Good evening. Actually, my name is Richard De Silva. I'm standing in for Alex. I'm with Northgate Contractors as well.
Okay, so just to refresh my memory, 185 South Street is what facility? Is that the mobile station?
Yes, sir, it is the Wrentham facility for mobile, and it's operated under Wrentham Service Center Incorporated.
Okay. So you're looking to, is this, just fill us in, is this a renovation to the gas station, or is this for the auto repair side?
No, sir, neither. What this is we work with a compliance company, and we operate, repair, or manage the fueling system below ground. What this is we're looking for an approval to change one of the storage components of the existing tanks from gasoline to be able to store diesel. The system would operate the same way. Nothing would be changed except for the fuel that would be going into it. They currently have 4 tanks at an equal 8,000 gallon capacity each for a total flammable storage of 32,000 gallons. That is beyond the capacity that they are required to have, and they're not selling enough. So to keep up with kind of the changing of the motor vehicles on the road now, to be able to offer some different options of fuel, they're asking to be able to take one of the 8,000 gallon capacity storages and change it from motor vehicle gasoline to low sulfur road diesel.
All right. All right. Do we have? I don't see any comments from fire chief. Has the fire chief and deputy chief had a chance to review this application?
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Yes,
Chair,
sir.
it is signed off by the chief.
Chief Marino signed, which is a requirement.
Oh, I see right in the bottom here. Okay. All right. Select Board Member Anderson. You're on mute, Jimmy.
Can you hear me now, Mr. Chair?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yep. Yeah, so as long as the fire chief has signed off on it and all, documentation looks good, I've got no further questions.
Okay. Select Board Member Gallo.
Echo the sentiments of Selectman Anderson. As long as the experts are okay with this, then I have no reason not to be.
Okay. Select Board Member Harrington.
Same, Mr. Chair. No questions.
Select Board Member Rouse.
Same as well. No further questions.
Do we have any abutters? This is a public hearing. Do we have any abutters who would like to comment? Okay. So there's no further discussion. Everything looks like it's intact, so it's okay to close the public hearing. Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at this time, the chair entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Harrington. Being no further discussion on that, roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
The public hearing has been closed, so at this time, we can vote to approve or deny the application at 185 South Street to amend the license for the storage of flammable and combustible liquids, flammable gases, solids, and to authorize the use of electronic signatures if approved.
Motion to move accepted.
So,
Second.
so a motion to approve the application, correct?
Yes.
There's a motion made by Select Board Member Harrington, seconded by Select Board Member Anderson. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Okay, so it passed 5-0. So you're all set. You can start pumping diesel. All
Thank
right,
you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to tab 5. Select Board Member Rouse. Gallo, did you have anything further to add before we move on?
Yeah, I'd like an answer. I'd like a response.
And to
I think it was through you to Kevin, or I was stating that, I was just stating that, yeah, I'd like Selectwoman Rouse to comment on the Globe article and some of the things that she's been seeing and hearing. And I'd like I guess I asked Kevin to see if, since the last meeting, we charged him with trying to reach out to some of the surrounding communities, town managers, people that are having the same like-minded sentiments, just asking for questions about this zoning requirement. I don't want to see if we've made any progress with that. I know that I sat through that Gloucester presentation, and there was the woman who kind of organized that, was very, very well informed. Then there was an attorney from the North Shore who spoke, who was representing a plaintiff who was very, very well informed. So these are the type of people that I think our board needs to be communicating with and talking, collaborating with, and seeing, what they're finding out about this.
Mr. Chair, if I could, before we move
Go right
on.
ahead.
Yeah, Simon Gallo, as you know, there's been continuous conversations on this for the last number of years. I've had direct conversations, even most recently with communities, including Milton. I've heard from a couple and have spoken directly to a couple of communities that I'm not obliged to say right now that are on more of the South Shore area, or south of us, that are actually going to be having a little bit more conversations with their board, I think next week. So I think they're being with some more activity. There's definitely a little bit more momentum, particularly around a little bit more population based, a little more similar communities to Wrentham, with interest in exploring this. It's interesting. We've seen a kind of across the board the communities that have accepted it in populations that you would have thought there'd be a little bit more of a apprehension that have adopted it, and others that have kind of pumped the brakes and said, wait a minute. But those conversations continue. I have a Norfolk County managers meeting next week. This is an agenda topic amongst the managers group, private session group, but certainly this is the primary agenda topic, and looking within Norfolk. So I continue to have those conversations. A lot of them, I think, are similar to us, and there's a lot of unknowns still with where court decisions will be, where things will kind of fall into place, and they've sort of pumping the brakes and kind of looking at the way things sort of transpire over the next couple of months to see what the options are that exist. So I think there certainly have been ears that are open and a little bit more awareness to that, to potentially look at alternatives. A lot of the conversations I've had were really around with other officials, have been around really recommending, as the chair opened the meeting up, around looking towards getting into a place where you're comfortable to add it to a future meeting warrant, to at least put it before our legislative body and allow our legislative body, our residents, to make a decision, as opposed to, and I'm not saying that this is what we're doing, but opposed to, kind of blocking that conversation. I think from, the recommendation is putting it before the legislative body, let them make the decision if it's supported or not. And I know we have a long way to go there. But that's been a lot of the focus is around, is it really needs to go to the legislative body in a fashion that we're in a comfortable place where, if it does pass and things happen, that the zoning is in an area that is suitable for us. So the continuous conversations around nothing but straight out budget meetings and everything else. It's just a busy time of year.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of definitive answers, because a lot of my colleagues and conversations are those that don't have a plan immediately to pass it or have already passed that meet the requirements of the law are somewhat in a little bit of a holding pattern similar to us to kind of see where things are kind of shaping up around the Commonwealth. There's a lot of moving parts. To that point, I've also been cautioned on a lot of these attorneys that has sort of sparked an interest for, not saying anyone in particular, but, the quote unquote ambulance chasing has now created an opportunity for, legal billing and legal services that may not be fully in agreement with others that ultimately, would be made up or decided by a court of law. So that has been provided to me through a number of people as well to sort of, if you're looking at those as, there's a number of attorneys that have kind of blossomed and are reaching out to communities that may need to be looked at.
Yeah, I would just, through you, Mr. Chair, I guess my response to that is that I think this board kind of agreed, and I don't want to speak for the board, I'm going to speak for myself. I think that my understanding was that we were taking a two-prong approach here in Wrentham. We were going to look at every single parcel, not just the ones that were presented to us. We were going to go back and look at every single parcel that we have that could potentially fit this criteria to see which ones would give them the least negative impact if we had to present a plan to the townspeople to vote on, which is exactly what we're saying we're going to do. No one on this board is suggesting that we don't bring this to the townspeople and let the townspeople vote, but we can't bring something to the townspeople and let them vote on it if we haven't vetted it thoroughly. That's my point on that. The second point is that simultaneously, while we ask our town planner and others to recommend these parcels that they think could have a least negative impact on the community, we're also investigating what other towns and what us are doing to see if this zoning is in fact enforceable and constitutional. Because there's a lot of people, and I totally agree with you about the ambulance chasers, but I have people reaching out to me that are pro bono, Kevin, that are not looking for money, that just want to see, the justice done and the voters make these calls and not some unfunded mandate from the state. So I caution us, by not doing anything, we're doing a huge disservice to our residents. I'm not saying that you're not doing anything. I'm saying that we need to be talking to other like-minded communities. We need to be getting updates from what those town managers are saying, what those boards are saying, towns like Bellingham, Milton, Holden, other communities who have at least expressed concern on this MBTA community zoning. So I can't stress that enough. No one's suggesting the voters aren't going to vote on this, because they are. Our job is to make sure the voters are voting on something that they actually understand. And that's what I'm trying to get across.
Select Board Member Harrington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my takeaway from our discussions earlier, we were going to stay focused and informed, gather as much information from local communities that are in the same situation as we are, see what litigation pans out and where the cards fall. We're planning on scheduling joint meetings with our EDC, planning and zoning boards. And we spoke about having a vote in the fall once we have the proper information to bring to the voters and let them decide what they want to do. That's how I understood it.
And those meetings will continue. And matter of fact, I was speaking with Town Manager Sweet this evening before the meeting. I'd like to see if we can do one the last Tuesday of this month. And also, I'd like to open it up to bring the school committee in also, because this could have an impact on the schools. And it'd be good to have involvement with not only planning and economic development, but to bring the school committee in also, so that they understand what's being done, what to forecast for, and to get their input. So that
So first and foremost, we need to work with like Selectman Gallo had mentioned that we need to have the correct properties vetted so that we if in fact we need to make a decision, we can have the correct information. That was the importance of having the joint meetings, in my opinion, with planning and zoning, rather than just quickly picking a couple of properties and moving on.
Well,
What-
we're not disputing that. We do need to get a list of properties, but we also need to understand the impacts.
Of course, absolutely.
And including police and fire and DPW, so anybody who goes through this exercise without looking at the cost impact is not doing their community a justice. And we are doing that. We are looking at it would be a pipe dream, but we could look through and sit down with everybody and put a pencil to it and find out that, yeah, this is not a big deal and we could do it. But I'm not saying that is the case. We know just based on our infrastructure of no municipal storage and water shortage that it is a hindrance on us. But we are going to make sure that every piece of information is available to the 12,000 residents of Wrentham, our town meeting participants who come to our town meeting. So when they make that vote, they're making the best vote for the town of Wrentham and their fellow residents. Select Board Member Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like we had said last week, or like I specifically said last week, it is in our best interest and we will do everything possible to uncover every avenue in this. So having said that, I want us not to, I want us to continue with, as Mr. Sweet had said, that the momentum has increased. I think that the media, the mentioning of different towns that I wasn't aware of that are in the same boat as us, and most recently the Boston Globe article, really has increased that momentum. And I think that we need to stay with that. So as we're looking at that two-tier approach, and as we wait for the government to get back to us, the state to get back to us with a response into our letters, we should be doing it simultaneously and educating ourselves. I have reached out to individuals in Winthrop. Winthrop was mentioned in the Boston Globe article. Holden, Milton, Bellingham, Gloucester, Rockport. I participated in the meeting with Select Board Member Gallo last Wednesday. Tracy O'Neill, who is running the North Shore kind of education process up there, is very well informed as an ex-city council individual with over 20 plus years of experience. She and attorney Mike Walsh did a spectacular presentation about the certain educating on the law, what this means, what we can be doing, things to think about, look at. I think it would be in our best interest to vet either, the attorneys. I've been given 3 attorney recommendations pro bono looking to help other towns. It would be in our best interest to vet those attorneys to see, have conversations with them about Wrentham, our situation, and get their perspective, as well as having more of a unified conversation with the other towns that are moving forward in the kind of the same process as we are. I think that each town having a voice is very important, and doing this simultaneously. In addition, as we look at all those parcels, every single parcel, not the 2 that were recommended, every single parcel, I think it will be beneficial for us to do an open meeting with residents coming, hearing the discussion with a town planner, why certain things are recommended, why they're not, getting the residents to have their answers to their questions done there. So I think we need to keep moving forward as we're waiting from the response from the state, as well as continuing to educate ourselves, continuing to educate our residents, and moving forward for the best possible solution for our town and the residents.
All right, thank you. I do like to hear from I have to say the media, with the exception of maybe one outlet or so, did a fabulous job covering our meeting last Tuesday. The information they pushed out to the not only to our residents but to the Commonwealth was really good. They did a great job, and I would like to commend them. WGBH quoted Select Board Member Frank Gallo for his hard efforts and hard work. So we also want to make sure that we could.
I forgot that. Could you please refer to me as Frank Gallo moving forward?
We could call you. Was it Jerry Gallo? Was the guy from My Cousin Vinny, wasn't it? So and I want to. The media usually doesn't hear that, but overall, I think the coverage was great. The stories were great. They basically are saying that we're just saying we don't have the infrastructure. work with us. And I think that's what we're asking. Doing our homework like we're doing is probably the best thing we could do to, take a meeting a month and continue discussing this, not letting it go on deaf ear, and have a good package together for town meeting whenever we do the town meeting for a vote, so that everybody feels good about the vote. And I think we'll be in a better place. And I think we're actually setting an example for other communities.
And Mr.
Go ahead.
And Mr. Chair, I think that in the current media coverage, it's been noted that the state has come back and denied any sort of modifications that towns have asked for that's been put in the media. So I think we need to be realistic as well in looking at all angles and what we would receive back from the state as working with us with this. Right now, everything that I've read from media and speaking with other towns, I'm really not seeing the arm extension to compromise with towns and what we're looking for.
Yeah, let's hope we set the bar and we make that change. But we also can't be naive and think that it's going to happen. So, any further discussion on this? If not, we're going to go over to tab 6. Now, this is something we've all been waiting for. Concept plan for Sweat Park. And let me see. Tab 6. I don't see anything in our packet. Do you have something to show with us, Frank?
Yeah.
I got Frank Gallo on the mind. Kevin?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, we have with us this evening Ed Barnack. He is a licensed planning and landscape architect in Massachusetts, leads the Massachusetts Landscape Architecture Group leader. As you know, late summer, well, really early fall, we went through the process of kind of looking at going out and getting designers. We requested proposals, and VHB ultimately, based on their knowledge and experience, and in particular, I could let Eric provide a little information about his experience specifically with Sweat Park, which I think is kind of unique in his prior involvement with it. We've been working with Eric and his team. VHB is a great outfit. They do great engineering work and design stuff, and we've asked Eric to join us tonight just to get to present sort of the first glance at it publicly, and present to the select board. We're hoping to get things going, and we have a pretty a timeline laid out, which will ideally get us to a place where we're at a bid award and contractor by May 15th. Get this ideally bidded before really the heavy start of the construction season, get things going. So I don't anticipate a whole lot more as far as back and forths and renditions. I think we get a place with we're not dealing with a place that's a fresh canvas, if you will, which has created some obstacles around topography, terrain, those things that you would imagine as if you were walking into a blank slate that you could kind of go with. So the major components was looking at getting those stairways and handrails redone, getting that access off of South Street, and really addressing that as the #1 priority, followed by improvements to the replacement of the courts, looking at what you'll see when Eric presents the discussions we've had months ago with regards to the addition of pickleball courts and the plan for that, with adding 4 pickleball courts, as well as a new replacement tennis court, as well as walkway improvements that are extremely necessary for down there. So it was really, and Eric was kind of charged and has a great vision, this being his background, but it was really looking at how do we reactivate Sweat Park. We got a hidden gem down there. And the whole focus, as you know, has been let's activate Sweat Park, get it to a place and a vision that we all want to see, and have said for many years. And we now finally have the resources through some ARPA funding to be able to meet this demand. So it's an exciting time. In my 6 years in town, Sweat Park has always been one of those things that I envisioned that could offer so much more, and it's exciting. To work with Eric and really kind of have an opportunity where we can really make this vision come true. So without further ado, Mr. Chair, if you're okay, I will turn it over to Eric and let him share his presentation and kind of what we're thinking out there.
Okay.
Eric, you're muted. And you
Gotcha.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair and the board. I appreciate you having me join this meeting, Kevin and Greg as well, working with you. And again, certainly appreciate the opportunity. I've had the unique opportunity to work with this park over the last about 15 years ago is when I first started and redesigned the kind of the center of the main stairwell. So those granite terraced walls in that little patio area, and some of the lighting that was never kind of finished off, and there's some of the step lights, but and some of the planting. So it kind of started there, and then it kind of trickled into some other opportunities, and now we're here. Now that I'm at VHB and being able to engage in a much larger effort here, which is, as Kevin said, very exciting. And as you mentioned, activating the park. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show. Let's see. So what I'll do is I'll show you this color plan, and if we need to go into the detail sheets, I could quickly scroll through those as well. But I figured I'd kind of show you from the higher level of what we're focusing on here, and then if we want to kind of go into some of the more details, we can. But again, as we mentioned, activating the park, it's always been. As I've been working here, it's just, there's so many really neat opportunities here. And the really neat opportunity, not thinking it's almost like a catch-22, where the park is actually sunken down, as all of you know, 12 feet or so. You think it's not an opportunity to activate it, but it really is. There's some really neat things to do, especially with the view, looking from Franklin down into the park. That's kind of a unique view. You have those phenomenal sycamore trees, which are some of the biggest trees that exist probably in the Northeast, especially with the tree back in this location back here, which is a 5-foot diameter tree. It is extremely rare that you see a 5-foot diameter tree anywhere in New England, really, with the exception of California and the redwood trees. So it is a really unique thing, especially these trees. So I'll give you a kind of high level of all these little orange circles, which Kevin give you a quick highlight of what we're focusing on, as mentioned, are the stairwell. So improving specifically the stairs to be granite stairs, granite slab stairs, rather than actual veneered stairs with a capstone. So what we're going to do is look at granite. It's a much durable material, set on concrete. They're really not going to go anywhere. And then we're going to accentuate those with some nice ornamental aluminum railings. And we're going to take a sidestep from wrought iron and go the aluminum route, which is just as nice and just as durable. And then improve some of the drainage in there. One of the main causes of why those stairs are really dilapidated is not only the age, but the amount of water that's coming down those stairs. It is literally like a water feature and a waterfall. So what we're going to do is add some additional drains at the different landings, at the midpoints, and also down at that larger dark blue area here. We're going to add 2 drains in here, and it's all going to eventually make its way down into the whole drainage system. So that's going to make not only using granite and how that detail will come together, but drainage is going to make that so much better. So we'd anticipate those lasting for a very, very long time. So starting there, which is a great improvement, as we extend down into the park, we see this orange circle here, and I kind of pointed to one of the trees. And this is where I talked about activating the park. I know dark sky is a very sensitive subject in a lot of municipalities. Of course, we want to protect these trees, and I'll get into that detail as well. That will be first and foremost, to protect these trees throughout the construction process, because they are highly important. And one other thing to consider is, the board can talk through this. We will show on the plan some accent lighting for those trees. One way to really visually activate this park, if someone's in a car driving by, they will never know the park exists, with the exception of the memorial up at the street and curb line. If those trees were lit up, and you do it a very tasteful way, that can just create an absolute activation to this park visually. It would be absolutely stunning. I can guarantee that. And in the regards to dark sky, if we regulated when that light goes on and when it goes off. Not keeping it on all night, but really stopping it at a certain point just to accentuate the park as the early evening hours and then maybe into maybe like 9 o'clock and then turning them off. Maybe there's a way to find some respect to the dark sky, but also accentuate these beautiful, beautiful trees. And it would just be quite stunning. I light my backwoods every night, and it's something I look at every night when we eat dinner. And that also helps, particularly what happens around the park. I know there's some potential future development in the back of the park, maybe to the right over here, maybe a future restaurant. We have the Gavel, other businesses as they look out to the park, and especially at nighttime, and you have the open deck over there with the restaurant, it would be actually quite a phenomenal sight for people to look out at. So something to consider. We are going to show it on the plans, and we'll be up to the town to figure out if they want to actually see that through, and we'll be here to support that. And so, as we turn into this orange circle here, we saw a really nice opportunity to really enhance what you've been doing, creating that nice seating within the park. Well, we thought maybe creating a little bit more formal seating with some either crushed granite or stone dust, little circular areas, almost creating like an art form. You have these really nice kind of dollar type, silver dollar circular areas that people can sit in. The chairs aren't wobbling around in the grass. Minimal impact to the landscape, but then you actually put your nice furniture into the landscape, and based on the pictures that I had seen that Kevin and Greg provided, it looks really, really nice. But with these nice formal seating areas, can make it even look more enhanced, and another visual element to look down on from the street. As we go over to the left here, this is kind of pointing to the walkway. So with the walkways, part of the scope is to relook at some of these walkways, especially this one here is a primary access route from this side of the park out to the back side of the park, of course. And this is where most of your drainage issues happen, where it's settled down. The drains are actually higher than where the water sits. So we're going to actually re-ink that or readjust that walkway to flare it out a little bit to the right. That allows us to expand the tennis and pickleball court area and tilt that a little bit better. And I'll get into that in a second. But it just makes a better alignment, no impact to any trees, very minimal damage, and it helps us to improve the drainage, and we'll get into that as well. But as I mentioned, the walkways, we have a new walkway here, nice perimeter path to kind of really encompass this nice loop around the entire park. Eventually, maybe there's a connection point to future development over here. But along that park, we have some remove and relocate some benches and also some new benches as well. So some nice optimal opportunities for seating, and then accentuating it with lighting around the perimeter as well, making it a nice inviting park during the evening hours. And of course, lighting the trees would accentuate that whole appeal as well. And then I highlighted these long oval areas. And well, actually, let me get into the tennis court first, and we'll get into that. So again, as I mentioned, the tennis court is becoming a little bit larger. You can see this dashed line right here. That's the original court back in here. And so you can see it just expanded, approximately 8 to 10 feet out to be able to fit a full-size tennis court and 4 pickleball courts. And what we've done is we've run this through various national regulations on tennis courts and also pickleball courts. So that's what we've designed to. One of the things here we're trying to be very sensitive, since it's one of the biggest elements, is the biggest element for impacting the site from a grading point. We wanted to be very sensitive. So we looked at this quite a bit. This seems really simple, but it actually was quite complex because you have certain grades over here. We have existing trees here. We have existing tree here. We have drainage problems here. We have a lot of water coming down from the property here. And how do we handle all that and then make the courts feel appropriate? So we're grading them at about a 0.9% grade, which is according to regulation. But even though that's very minimal, from one side to the other, there's a significant change in grade that you'd be surprised. So it creates impact around the edges on how you grade this. So what we have done is we've graded from the outside in. And what you see here is this drainage swale, which is a stone strip. So it doesn't look like a swale. It's just a stone decorative strip where the water travels into. We'll have perforated pipe in there. It hooks into the existing drainage system. We'd also have these 2 catchment areas, which will be encompassed by some really nice native grasses and other perennials, actually accentuating the courts visually but also working very functionally from a drainage standpoint. So a lot of that water would be coming down, running into this catchment area here, and of course the court's running in there. You have a lot of water coming down this way from the right. That catchment area would catch all this water over here, and then of course we have a drain here. We can't do too much with this drain, and this is very flat. So we have to, by raising this core to the edge of the court here, it allows us to raise this grade a little bit and get the drainage to go down to this drain here. So very, very tricky because we couldn't touch that at all. And then we're limited with some of the other drains that are over here. We're adding a drain here as well. And then, of course, some additional benches, and again, remove and replace some of the benches at the edges of the court as well. So again, trying to be very sensitive to the trees. That was a key thing. Drainage was another thing. And then if we did drain it a different way, we were going to add a lot of pipes around the courts, and it's just too much pipe to get to certain areas. So that's why we actually resulted in making the decision of putting this swale. It looks really nice. We've done this before. Very effective. It looks very attractive as well. We will have two fences abutting each other on each side of the swale, a 4-foot fence. And then what we'll probably look at doing is a 10-foot U-shaped fence and then dropping down to like 4 feet here and then going back up to 10. Make sure we contain the balls. We will have a fence separating the two separate courts from each side so the balls don't go into each other. We have two gates, one here and one here leading into the pickleball area. And then we also have just basically this is open on the tennis court right here to here. This is all wide open into the landscape. And then, of course, there's some lighting that Musco Lighting suggested. So that's part of the plans as well. So it would be well lit. And then the other portion of the scope was adding the 2 ADA parking spaces over here and making sure, of course, the path system hooks into that effectively and according to standards. So that's kind of the overall snapshot of what the improvements are. Again, I could take any questions at this point. If you'd like me to quickly scan through the more detailed plans, I certainly could.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your presentation, and you know, Sweat Park is a jewel that we have, and I think everybody appreciates it. So I'm going to let the board members ask any questions. Select Board Member Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Eric, that was a very impressive presentation. Really looking forward to getting this project done. I think it'll help accentuate the downtown area. But just a quick question. Did you say 88 parking spots?
These 2 ADA parking spots. So what we're going to do is level out the pavement here. Just cut up the pavement, a section of this pavement, and regrade it a little bit, and then stripe it as 2 ADA parking spaces with a striped area connecting into the path system, so that it meets specific regulations.
Okay, so it's not 88 parking spots.
Oh, no,
ADA.
just no to ADA. ADA,
Oh, ADA,
American
okay.
Disability Act. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's my bad. But anyways, thank you for taking this project on, and I look forward to seeing it come to completion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Selectman Gallo.
Looks great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric, great job. Are there going to be some, do you have any 3D renderings at this time, or is this a little premature for 3D renderings?
No 3D renderings at this point, not part of our scope at this point. We're certainly capable of doing it if the town wishes to go down that path. But we just have this graphic here, and then we have our detailed plans.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic. I would love to see some. I don't want the town to incur any costs. We don't have to, but I think the townspeople would really get excited to see this thing come alive with a 3D rendering at some point. I will say this too, and this isn't necessarily directed at Eric, maybe more Kevin. I do want to just keep the conversation that we had with Malia's family about doing something for her on that, at some point as part of the design. I just don't want the design to get too far ahead. So I don't know where we left that. Was it a bench? Was it some kind of
Not to cut you off, Selectman Gallo, we've been maintaining those conversations.
Okay.
We actually reached out again to them yesterday to try to set up a meeting after this. Eric's aware of that. I think what they've come back with is a proposal for a bench. And one of the conversations we had is on the that potentially some of these benches may get, most of them are in pretty good shape, look at potentially either staying or getting repurposed somewhere else. What we had talked about is the two potentially on the tennis court side and or on the back walkway right there, those two, potentially that either there or the being a potential location for the bench, and we are staying in contact with them. So, great question, and we absolutely have factored that in as well.
Thank you so
And
much.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to play off of that too, Kevin, I think it might be nice to get some input on where that bench might be appropriate. We were thinking, maybe somewhere right in here where there's a kind of a, intersection of walkways where people stop and see it, or whether it's over here along this walkway. But I know a lot of people don't travel this, but there are a few opportunities to where we can put that bench. So we can certainly chat further, and love to hear some further feedback.
I think the big component of it is, was the tie to the tennis court. So I think that's where the thought was, closer to the tennis court being the purposeful. But we can talk offline on that. But the Selectman Gallo's point, yeah, absolutely. It's part of the bigger conversation.
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so not to get it too far ahead, but I also believe that the Wrentham 350th committee is looking to possibly donate a couple of benches down at Sweat Park.
Okay. Would they be interested in donating a trellis to the center school lot?
Good question, Mr. Chair. I can check on that.
Okay,
Can I answer that question for you, Mr. Chair?
not at all.
Okay. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. They're not at all interested.
All right. Any more comments, Select Board Member Gallo?
No, sir, I was done. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Select Board Member Harrington. Now, if we put a lift there so you could work on your cars, you'd be happy, right, Bill?
No, I prefer to type for a living now.
All right.
So first and foremost, yeah, great presentation. Second, thank you very much to Select Board Member Gallo for remembering the bench and the area for Malia. That's very important to me, and I'd like to see that to come to fruition. And second, which direction do the pickleball courts face? They north, south, east, west? Because I know when certain people play pickleball over at the Rice Complex, the sun is a problem. So I don't know which direction they face, but we want to make sure that they take into effect that the sun is rising and setting is an issue when they're playing.
Yep, absolutely. These courts actually were originally set the exact way they should be set, according to regulation. We've slightly changed, well, not so much. We're pretty much on the same angle. So we are in line with that and very, very well aware of that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right. Select Board Member Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this looks phenomenal. I think the lighting and the spacing is really going to open up more people using it, walking through it. I think it's going to be a huge improvement to that area. One question I have, is it just going to be open between the tennis courts and the pickleball courts? There's not going to be any barrier between the two or divider, correct?
There will be two fences actually in
okay.
between, just so people don't try and walk across the stone and hurt their ankles. We'd probably put something there like a 2 to 3 inch. I don't know, it could be a smaller stone. We'll figure that out. We did want it to look decorative though, like a riverbed stone, but there will be a fence on the tennis court side and then also the pickleball. We just don't want somebody running trying to get a ball and then they step on the stone and twist their ankle or something of that
Sure.
nature.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry if I missed that during the presentation, but
Sure.
just so there wasn't any cross, with balls and so forth as people are playing pickleball and tennis and so forth. Okay. I think it looks spectacular. Thank you for your time. It looks great.
Thanks so much.
Love the lighting. I think lighting is so important in any sort of landscaping. So I'm so glad to hear that incorporated.
Mr. Chair, if I could just follow up that while we have the opportunity to have Eric with us. I was actually going to bring this up before Selectwoman Rouse did, particularly because I don't think that we really highlighted that too much. I'd like to just, if you could, Eric, just explain a little bit further as to why the drainage splits the two courts. And, Greg and I, had a little bit of angst with this because we're trying to figure out, like, it didn't seem like a standard design. But after going through this with Eric's team and understanding why the design is structured, it makes a lot more sense. And again, back to my original opening statement, where we don't have a blank canvas to be able to work from, we're kind of bound by existing massive trees, massive roots, and some other drainage issues. I think it's important just to, Eric, if you don't mind, just kind of showing what that looks like, or at least explaining as the professional why the design is the way it is, why we're pitching it to the middle of the two courts, and why we have to create that sort of middle separation, if you don't mind.
No, certainly. And I did highlight it a little bit in the presentation, but so we have these constraints. Of course, the trees, as I mentioned, and as we all know, are probably the number one important thing here within the park. We have this significant tree. This is that 5-foot diameter. If you could see my cursor off to this top right of the corner of the court, that's at a specific elevation. We have a 2 cluster tree right here up against the walkway at this side of the court as well. This tree also plays into the role of what happens along this edge and how that is graded. And once you start and then the other really important thing is this edge over here too, because there is a lot of water that comes down this slope, especially when it's rock hard frozen in the wintertime and you have these heavy rainfalls, particularly like we've been having. All this water comes down to the court. We looked at pitching it from the middle out. If we did raise that, water would come down and actually go into the court from this slope and then pitch off to the court on each side. We just didn't like that. We don't want to direct water into the court. We want water going off the courts to make sure that we don't have any issues. As you've seen, I know the courts that are there now are old, but a lot of that's because how flat it is and how it was draining. And so, of course, we want to minimize any of that. We don't want any of that cracking to happen. So the courts have to be graded at a certain percent. And when you elevate them, we elevate them are starting to it's like 2 wings going up and grading towards the center. When you start looking at that, we also have a pinch point here. Where we have to be at a certain height here to be able to meet the grades here, or we're going to have like a wall or a cut. It's just going to be a really awkward situation here as well. If we were to tilt the courts the opposite way, we'd be digging into the ground and digging into a lot of the roots at the tree here. It's better to fill over roots than it is to actually, dig into them. Same thing here with this pinch point is here. This walkway will get elevated a little bit near this tree, which will be able to lift the walkway so that we're not disturbing those roots. So that asphalt walkway that's currently there can get torn up nicely by hand, just lifting the pavement up and then redoing the pavement there nicely without disturbing the roots as much as well. Also, as I mentioned, we have this drain here. I had asked Nate on our civil engineer on our team about this drain here. We cannot touch the rim of this and change in any way, shape, or form. I asked if we could lower it. We can't, because the certain amount of pipe and slope that leads in doesn't allow us to change that. So right now, this is, as you know, this is very, very flat. If you look at the grading, it's just not the way it should be. So by elevating this edge here a little bit in the walkway, redoing the walkway with the benches, it allows us to bring this grade up a little bit, and then allows us to add a little bit of soil in here to get it to grade to this drain, so we don't have to worry about it. So there's a lot. And then again, the other instance that we looked at not trying to do this stone soil was, how do we add piping around to capture water around the perimeters? That's just too much piping and too long of runs to get to the drains that we can't do it. It just doesn't work. The lengths are the runs of pipe are too long to get the slopes. So it doesn't look tricky when you're out there because it's just kind of a flat site. But when you do have a flat site, it tends to become even more complex. So we did look at this from all different angles, and so hopefully that explains a little bit further.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric, because I just wanted to get, obviously for the board, but anyone else in the public that might be looking. My first review, just kind of looking at potential photos, it's a little strange to see sort of the 2 fences and the separation in between. Greg and I had concerns around, balls getting in between, really understanding the distance between the 2 fences. Also future maintenance, what's some potential around having to weed, having to maintain sort of this basin area, but just so the board's fully aware of kind of why this is the way it is on that particular piece. I think I think it's going to look great ultimately, but it is not something that I, from my experience, have typically see where you have it in the middle of the two separation. Obviously, you have a single fence that separates the tennis play from the pickleball play, but having the two fence and creating that, 4, 5 foot, 3 foot, width in between with the rock, there's a rationale and an engineering reason behind that. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
And just to kind of play off of that as well, I think you'll really appreciate how, even though it's a 3 foot little buffer of stone, to be able to get the pipe in there and the footings of the fences and so forth. I think you will appreciate having that buffer as much as it's easy to say, oh, we don't want that buffer. And just having like one fence there, because pickleball, it is loud. And it's a little bit different play than tennis. I think having that separation will be really nice. The other thing, let's see, I'm going blank. Sorry, I missed my thought there. But there is certainly a lot of what I was going to say is we did have our athletic specialist take a look at this, who design athletic fields, courts, all the time. And this was something that they highly suggested as well, based on the constraints that we had. And what they've also done at other, we do have some pictures of what we've done in other locations, which is very similar to this. And it's worked very effectively.
All right, any other questions? All right, being none, we look forward to the next stage, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. Let's go over to tab 7. This is an update on the community electricity aggregate. This is something we started, I want to say, close to 2 years ago, was it, Kevin? That we started attaining this when they started having the spikes with the National Grid in the kilowatt.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Chit. So we were exploring it, the town negotiates with kind of looking where ranges, electricity costs, as you know, have been going up, even, from the town's utility usage. And, we lock in, unfortunately, we typically, as a municipality, we lock into a 3-year. A lot of it is around timing. A lot of it is around when we have our contract and the like. We started more recently having the conversation about looking at community aggregation as to, I don't recall the exact town meeting. What was it, last fall? But before that on the
September 22.
Yeah, okay. So looking at, getting part of the process requirement for a town meeting vote, going to community aggregation for the town to be able to explore that. Chad Lovett, who was our former director of facilities and capital planning, was leading that charge, and was kind of handling a lot of kind of that setup. And then with Chad leaving the community, moving on, left a gap, and we've had to pick it back up. And so the last couple of months, Greg and I have been meeting with Good Energy. In their packet is a kind of a presentation in there that I don't need to go slide by slide or share, but gives the board a little bit of a background. Good Energy is a company that's been in the municipal aggregation world, particularly in Massachusetts, for the last 10 years, like a decade experience specifically in Massachusetts. They have 68 Massachusetts clients today, which services about 650,000 households. Our most adjacent communities for us as far as community clients are Plainville, Attleboro, and Norton. But there's a map on there that shows you where all of their clients are, and certainly the big player in the municipal aggregation world. I am about to sign a contract with Good Energy any day now. We're just waiting on a final certificate of inspection. We've had legal review. We've gone through everything to be able to move forward with Good Energy to lead this process. It takes about sort of I hesitate to share dates because a lot of this is hingent upon state agencies, and we know how that sometimes can go, with ultimate approval from DPU, Division of Public Utilities, Department of Public Utilities. So hesitate to give on a worst case scenario, ideally, which is quicker than it used to be. It used to be significantly longer time. They're expecting within about 12 months. They're hoping within 6. So the next phase, once there's ink on that contract, is to move into presenting a plan to the Mass DOER, Department of Energy Resources, and meeting with their plan, which then once we have that approval, it starts into the DPU approval process, and then ultimately, once we get DPU approval process, the town would then go out to bid and look at bids and see where that comes in, and then move forward with essentially the opt-out clause, and a lot more notification to utilities and the like, and the ability, which is how most of them are all structured now, where you automatically are opted in unless you proactively opt out, and we'll have more discussions about what that means in the next several months as we get closer. But we are in good shape as far as getting going on this and moving, moving this forward and kind of where things are at. Like I said, Good Energy, I think, is going to be a great partner, and they certainly have the experience in the municipal aggregation world. And our experience working with them thus far has been very good. So, as well as references from other municipalities and with their prior relationships with them.
So this is to help reduce the cost of the charges per kilowatt hour, correct?
That's correct. So the relationship with National Grid, who is our electric utility provider, doesn't change. They're still responsible for maintaining service to the infrastructure. It's still their system. It's still their bill. It would still be a National Grid bill. They administer all that. The only changes includes the electric supplier, which is focused on the actual rate that's being charged, which is that bid component. So it allows the idea behind a larger, bigger in numbers and bigger impact to be able to negotiate a community aggregation rate is the benefit.
Okay. Any questions? Select Board Member Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Kevin, for the residents in town, do they have to opt into this, or is this like an opt out?
Yeah, the way these are structured is an opt out. So they'll be given an opportunity, so everybody is automatically opted in unless they proactively opt out. And there's a lot of, I've had a lot of conversations around that, particularly with our representatives from Good Energy, and kind of why they do that, and just the statistics and data. It's very hard to get people to opt in on a lot of things, and just on a different conversation, around the reverse 911 and opting in on certain things, it's very challenging, and that's the way that these are structured. So the way it's approved by DPU is that everybody is opted in. They have to proactively opt out.
Okay, thank you.
But there'll be a significant, information around that marketing, in the sense of, so that folks are fully aware of what's going on and the like. So, there'll be a lot of information, mailings and the things like that. We actually even talked about, so it's not just, oh, that's another vendor, having it come from the town seal, and, other avenues to be able to get that information out to, to residents when the time comes.
Okay, thank you, Kev.
All right, Select Board Member Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin, just jumping on what Jim said, if a private citizen is currently using their own other supplier than National Grid, like a Constellation or somebody, how does that work? Does the citizen still automatically get opted in? Because I know I'm using somebody else and I have a contract with them. So how does that work? What if my rate's better than your rate? What if your rate's better than my rate? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. Greg, do you know the answer to that for those that aren't just standard National Grid customers? I think that did come up with our guy
Yes.
there. Get the specifics on that.
Sorry. Yeah, so if you are a Constellation provider, you will not receive an invite to opt out. You will not be part of the initial run. You will not get one of the letters from the town of Avon, Wrentham, about these type of programs. You'll just stay on with Constellation.
But what if I want, Greg, what if I want to, through you, Mr. Chair, what if I want to opt in? Is that just?
You can. You
Say that
can,
again.
and once you can opt in. You just won't be necessarily automatically enrolled and have to opt out. So you will have the opportunity to opt in. to the program. And the other part of it is if you do opt out, you will not have another opportunity. I think it's like a year or something like that you have to before you can opt back in. So if you are originally Constellation and you want to opt in, you can opt in. But it's a separate procedure. It's not an automatic enrollment.
Okay, I'll just caution us to be very, very communicative with the residents. I could foresee people maybe being confused about that. So whatever we could do to get the word out.
Absolutely. Yeah, agreed. And we,
And
you know,
I
we
do
spent
believe they
time
do.
Go ahead, Greg, sorry.
I'm sorry. I do believe they do like cable shows. They go to the COA at coffee hours for seniors. They do all that type of stuff besides regular mailings out. So they offer a 1-800 number and a website for people to go to get information on the program as well.
Okay. Select Board Member Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're still looking at over a year away. So you don't have any pricing versus current pricing.
No. Aggressively hopeful for 6 months to be able to go out and get bid pricing. On the long end, 12 months is what they're saying. So I think they're optimistic, with potentially 6 months, with the caveat that it's a chance it could go out as long as 12. And I think a lot of it is depending on the review and approval with DPU.
Right. And then is it like a contract with them per household? So if you opt in, you're with them for a year or 2 years?
Everybody.
So if you opt in to get your electricity through Grid Energy and you're 6 months later, Constellation New Energy comes along and is offering better pricing, can you drop out and move on? Or are you locked in like signing a contract? I mean, with Eversource, you can drop out Eversource anytime you want.
Correct.
I can answer that, Kevin.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Greg.
Okay, so Bill, similar to what we said, is that if you automatically are enrolled and you want to opt out of the program after 6 months because Constellation has better pricing, you can, you're in the program until we get out of the program. So you're in there for 3 years. We sign a 3-5-year contract. You're in there for 3 to 5 years. You can opt out of the program, but once you opt out, I want to say there is a timeline before you can opt back in. And I think it's when we do the renewals. So if you're on the program for a year and a half, you opt out, you can't join back for a year and a half.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Select Board Member Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This can't come at a better time. I mean, I received an email from National Grid today stating that they're going to be proposing 5-year set increases for all National Grid customers. So this is a good offset. I also, like Select Board Gallo, have hunted around and I'm on a other separate plan. And I'm even confused because that we really need to educate on this. I signed a 12-month contract. So if I'm not lining up, just from my perspective as a resident, if I'm not lining up with the opt-in, like I'm going to be tied to my other energy supplier. So like if I break that, I'm penalized. So we kind of need to do a lot of educating on that piece with Good Energy to really understand how that works for people that are on current other energy suppliers. And if they have to break that contract to get into Good Energy through Wrentham. So just to kind of re-emphasize that point, I think that will be a big education process for people to understand, for residents to understand what the best way to go about it for them and their families.
Agreed.
And another point is I looked at the chart that was in the presentation and the current rates that they've offered in the last few years, and they're completely competitive with, the market of other energy sources. They're very much in line, and if not better.
Agreed, yeah. I mean, there's obviously that caveat of there's no guarantee of saving
Right.
that, but again, I think just by sheer volume in market, they're being able to do that. Yeah, it's worked out in other communities, that already have it, that have municipal aggregation, and it's played off pretty well. So, but yeah, I agree with you. A lot more conversation. They have a whole team that's dedicated to to working the information, the marketing, all of that around it. So folk can't agree anymore that that's going to be crucial for folks to understand it, because it is complex. It's complicated, and the deregulation isn't that old, so it's still fairly new for people to understand the options.
Good to see. Thank you.
Well, just a quick note is I did do some comparisons to Plainville, Franklin, who are on the aggregate compared to the rates that National Grid was offering, and also the rates like Michelle and Chris. I shot my rate too. I'm currently with, I forget the company. I think it's Green Energy actually that I'm with right now. I don't commit to a long-term contract with penalties, so I can get out at any time, and I generally do 6-month contracts. So for me, I would imagine that when my contract is up, I can convert over to Good Energy and stay with it. And chances are, from the history I've seen, Good Energy, if it's like the aggregates in the communities, will always be less than Grid and less than ever the commercial ones that are advertising. So I think it's a win-win for our residents once we get into this. Any other questions on the?
Hopefully that was the plan.
Yeah. Any other questions on the aggregate? Being done, let's go over to the budget update. Kevin?
My fault,
You're muted.
Mr. Chair. Not a ton of change with regards to this stage of the budget process. Just as we're given the nature of where we are cyclically, this is just kind of going to be an ongoing budget line item, budget agenda item rather, with regards to budget item and updates. Just a couple of good news for FY25. I think as we both myself and the finance director have met with every department head to date now. We're still doing a lot of budget work, and ultimately working to where ultimately will be a level budget. Pretty much anticipated, not anticipating any cuts. I won't see much growth as far as FY25 budgets, but I at a minimum expect services to remain unimpacted in FY25. On the good news, we are seeing favorable costs related to the health insurance. As you know, FY24's budget helped us out significantly by moving to Maya. We were able to kind of get through the FY24 budget without significant major health insurance impacts, and in fact some reduction because of that change that helped balance the budget for FY24. Our renewal is significantly lower than health insurance trend, which is running around 7.5%, 8%. We got a great renewal rate from Maya as far as our experience. So we'll be in good shape there, which will help us in FY25. We also have a couple of other factors that FY25 will probably be sort of the last year of being able to kind of get through, which is sort of that always unknown KP assessment year over year. Wrentham's assessment for FY25 is very favorable, and again, that's all based on a number of the 4 factors that we discuss every year that make up the formula to determine the individual 3 communities' assessments. We are the lowest on the increase of the 3 communities, with Plainville being the highest in FY25, and then followed by Norfolk as far as highest in the sense of percentage increase. Obviously, Wrentham's share of that is the largest, and we send the the largest number of students, but ultimately the percentage increase year over year for FY24 into FY25, is favorable. So that's going to help us out, considerably. The other caveat to that is we are funding it, the Tri-County vocational school budget. We are funding that interest payment that will be due, and we're looking at about a 10% increase overall there. There's been an increase in some student population, and that is factored into sort of the total education component in piece of that. The other note is that we're now hitting 100% payment on the MEC, which is the Medicom and Emergency Communication Center, our regional dispatch. As you may recall, we've saved now with a couple $1 million now over the last 5 years by opening up to the Mendon Millville district and allowing those communities going from 4 to 6. We've reduced our percentage of the share minimally, but it's something. But the big incentive there was the grants that was offered by State 911 to cover for our first 3 years 100% of our assessment. But the increase to that is going to be a more sizable increase. Where we were fortunate for sound budgeting reasons, I did not reduce that budget line item down to zero, because then we'd be coming up with $580,000, knowing that eventually it was going to hit back in. So the budgeted was over what our actual assessment would be, knowing that we would end up turning that money back in at the end of each fiscal year, which helps our free cash component. But we're not starting from a zero, but there is about it's about $160,000 or so $1,000 increase between FY24 and FY25's budgeted number. But all in all, the budget picture, the town's financials were in great shape. We had good free cash. We're going to try to do what we can to minimize the use of free cash to balance the budget. It's always a very tricky thing, but just dealing with that structural deficit right out the bat, levy limits and Proposition 2.5 with expenses far exceeding that. But overall, FY25 is shaping up pretty good. I think we're going to be in a good position, as I said, at least to be able to maintain services, and then we'll prioritize where we can some potential potential areas that could priority wise that can be adjusted. I will say that pretty much every department has asked for more. I think they've done good effort and have justified their reasons, but I think the biggest driver I'm hearing right from the town clerk down to you name it, every office has really been about staffing levels and potential overlap with future planned succession, some of those type of conversations. But police, fire have all expressed and have continued to express staffing needs, as well as other departments, and just overall expenses. Like every year, there's over $1 million in asks, and we end up where we do. So a lot of diligence and a lot of thought goes into that, and I've spent a lot of hours, Mike, and the entire finance team, and just getting us to where we are in March. A lot more will happen over the next 4 weeks or so as we get to a point, and then be able to present a balanced budget to you folks for discussion and adoption. So happy to answer any questions, but nothing more specific to share unless there's questions that it can answer at this stage.
Kevin, I just have one question. A few years ago, Senator Warren got us a grant to hire 6 firefighters for 3 years. Have we been able to fund those 6 firefighters, or did we have to go into retirements and things of that nature?
No, that staffing level has maintained. So that's the SAFER grant. We received the SAFER grant. We were on the SAFER grant, where that's a rolling off grant. So it doesn't take you from 75% to zero. The next year, it's a de-escalation of the funding to where it drops down to 25%, down to zero. And we've been able to factor in that level and continue that. Ultimately, there's still, aside from the fact of the staffing level, I think ideally it's probably about 4 that they'd like to be able to run a full maybe get 2 ALSs on the road, be able to staff Station 2. Aside from, increasing the budget to be able to hire, the difficulty still remains around civil service, still remains around paramedics, getting folks off the list where it's a national issue, but in particular, it's a Massachusetts issue as well on being able to hire, even if we had the numbers. So that's been a continuous challenge. And then people get injured, people, they have occasion, and just maintaining a staffing point just to be able to provide, the minimum services. But a big portion of that, Joe, has been around the increase in about 5 years ago. I went out and outsourced the ambulance billing, which has been dramatic change for this community as far as what we've seen in ambulance revenue, getting, less of mutual aid, getting the ability to at least have sometimes a second ambulance out on the road and being able to get that ambulance billing, which helps on the ambulance receipts, which ultimately offsets some of that increase on the expense side by transferring more from the ambulance, into the general fund. So the answer is yes, it's funded at 100%, same staffing level with the Safer Grant folks rolling off. But there's still, those continuous needs. Same on the police side. We're looking at options there, but, they've had an officer shortage capacity as well for a number of years. So.
Okay, Select Board Member Anderson.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for the update. Much appreciated. I don't have any particular questions.
All right, Select Board Member Gallo.
Same. Thanks for the update. No questions at this time.
All right, Select Board Member Harrington.
Yeah, same. We'll do a deeper dive once we get some hash numbers, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Select Board Member Rouse.
Thank you for the update. No further questions at this time.
All right. Tab number 9 is Town Manager's Report. Was that just it, or was there another?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything further to share this evening.
All right. So at this time, we'll be going into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 3, with discussion to strategy with respect to litigation. And we will only be coming out of executive session to adjourn. There'll be no votes taken on this matter this evening. So at this time, the chair entertain a motion to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 3.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
So motion made by Selectman Anderson, seconded by Select Board Member Rouse. No further discussion. We'll do a roll call vote. Select Board Member Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Select Board Member Botash, yes. Select Board Member Gallo.
Gallo, yes.
And Select Board Member Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
And Select Board Member Rouse.
Russ, yes.
All right. So if Amanda, if you just do a clean sweep, make sure there's no visitors. It looks like there isn't, but just to make sure. And then I'll turn the floor over to Kevin.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Amanda, you're not seeing anyone, right?
No, looks good to me.